Hello, my name is Stephen Bilodeau, and I'm the beer manager of Wines Unlimited and the coordinator of the ShakesBeer Festival in Stratford, Connecticut. I'm going to try a variety of IPAs, except for one Imperial Amber Ale, and just kind of give you some feedback. So first up, I'm going to try the Ballast Point Sculpin, which is an IPA brewed in San Diego, California. So it has a decent amount of head. Looks like it has a decent amount of head retention, and it's a nice golden pale color, which is what you should expect with an IPA. Very floral. I'm getting a lot of like citrus, kind of dank, hoppy aromas. A little bit of fruit, but definitely more citrus, a little piney kind of aspects to it. It has like a really good hop bitterness toward the front, kind of mellows out, and it kind of like goes into a very, very subtle but long finish, which is typical with IPA. This is a solid one, and there's obviously a reason why this is a sought-after IPA. Very solid beer. So next up, the Nugget Nectar, which is Imperial Red from Trogs Brewing out of Hershey, Pennsylvania. Pour myself a little bit less so I don't get wasted. So it has a nice amber kind of golden color. It's a little bit more reddish compared to the last one. It's not a complete red. It's kind of a light golden amber color. And it has a nice head, not as big as the last one with Ballast Point. But let's give this one a go. So right off the bat, the citrusy aspect is much different than the Ballast Point. There's almost no citrus. It's more bright, kind of bready aspects. And almost like a metallic, kind of minerally nose to it. So right off the bat, it has a lot of that same minerally kind of flavor, kind of like stone, accompanied by a hoppy bitterness. More of a bitter aspect more than a fruit aspect. This is more earthy compared to that more citrusy IPA from Ballast Point, the Sculpin. You can also see why this is really renowned and people are always looking for it. The next one is from Waterbury, Vermont, called the Heady Topper. Of course, everybody knows this one. It's really hard to find. It's only available in a couple of counties in Vermont. So this is from the brewery Alchemist. Highly sought after IPA. So right off the bat, it's a very, very mellow yellow kind of straw color in comparison. Has decent head retention, and it is slightly hazy, not as clean looking as the last two beers, but not murky either. So right off the bat, the nose is very, very dank. I get kind of fruity esters, but this one definitely has that hoppy kind of aroma of the staple IPA, which is why BA gave it such a high score. Right off the bat, very, very hoppy, explosive forwardness. You could taste like almost straight up hops in this one. And even the linger is very, very similar to the front initial taste. It's very clean, but it definitely has a decent body considering that it looks like it's almost a lighter style IPA, but very, very solid. Next up is the Sip of Sunshine, which is actually brewed by Two Roads in Stratford. However, the brewery that created the Sip of Sunshine is called Lawson's out of Vermont. This is another one that's a little hard to find, only available in very few states. Vermont and Connecticut, I believe, at this moment. In comparison, this one's much cleaner. I could see right through it compared to the Heady Topper, which was a little hazy. Has a decent head to it, just as the last three beers did. I'll go for the nose now. Really bright, kind of very, very similar to a minerally nose again. I definitely get some fruity aspects out of it. This one is definitely a really clean IPA. Decent hop start, but a very, very clean finish. And it's really hard to appreciate IPA, especially once you're going from beer to beer, because it's such a hot bomb that your palate kind of gets wrecked. So it's, so to appreciate the flavor of this, it's better off to taste these beers obviously alone, but I'm just doing them side to side. Pretty solid. I could also see why this is another staple IPA that everybody's looking for. The next one, they give a little Stratford pride because obviously I'm from Stratford, Connecticut. Two Roads, the Road to Ruin double IPA. This one is not so rare compared to the rest of the beers here. However, I wanted to give a little bit of shout out to the local brewery. Just looking at it, very, very clean. I could see that the techniques used to make this beer, they made sure that during secondary fermentation, that they made sure that this beer was very, very pure. I could see right through it. And that also kind of goes toward its freshness, the fact that it's made right here in the same town that I'm filming this video and from. Good head retention, and I'll go for the nose now. Obvious hoppy. I get kind of like slightly tropical, but it more so kind of piney aspects too. And kind of a stone, minerally, earthy kind of tones from that the hoppy bitterness that comes forward. So I'm going to go for the taste. This one is actually quite good. Hoppy like the rest of them. However, it's almost like a controlled hoppiness. It's not such a palate wrecker. It's a little bit cleaner, like I said, and the malt kind of comes through a little bit stronger than just the hops, which is typical in most double IPAs. And it was actually kind of refreshing to have that one after the other four beers, because it almost kind of like distinguished the hop bomb in my mouth. However, this beer still has a lot of hoppiness to it. Kudos to Phil Markowski. Next up is the High Res from 6 Point, which is out of Brooklyn, New York. And this is one of their limited IPA styles. So I'll try that right now. This is actually pretty clean as well. It has a little bit of an amber to it, more so than some of the other IPAs, but still a nice straw color, which is very typical. Again, as with all the other beers here, has nice head to it. So I'll go for the nose now. So I get right off the bat, obviously the hops. It too also has kind of a minerally smell to it, but it also has kind of a dankness as well. This one tastes much different from the rest of them. Very, very hop forward, like the other beers. However, the maltiness gives it a very boozy kind of taste in comparison. The alcohol is much more warmer, and it gives it almost like a very sweet finish, which balances out the hops into a very kind of bitter start to a kind of sweet linger. I definitely still have a hop bite in my mouth. It's tightening up my jaw a little bit, but the sweetness is definitely there. So the last one I got here is the DC Brow on the Wings of Armageddon, which is their Imperial IPA, I believe. And so for that, I'll be wasted at the end of this video. So a little amber compared to some of the other IPAs as well. Still very clean. You could see that the technique was to go for that purity. Nice straw kind of color to it, but it does have a slightly amber hue. Decent head, as with some of the other beers here too, but not as foamy, it looks like. So right off the bat, I definitely get a nose of really rich hops. There's a slight mineral kind of stone aspect to it as well. A dank kind of tropical tone, but very subtle. This one is like crazy different from all the rest of the beers here. This one has a little bit of funky sweetness that starts it off, accompanied by that hop bomb, as with the other beers, except for that funky kind of malt start that accompanies with it. I don't smell that in its nose, but the taste is definitely there. Malt is definitely much stronger in this beer than the rest of them. However, it's an Imperial IPA, so it's not unheard of. Mostly when you see double IPAs, Imperial IPAs, they're strong on ABV, but they're also heavier on the malt. So the sweetness is evident in tasting it, sometimes not so much in smelling it, which is evident in this particular brew. The only thing that's left is a little bit of foam. So I hope you enjoyed this short little tasting review. Not really review, but a little tasting that I did. It was kind of an IPA mood, and I just collected a couple of sought-after IPAs just to kind of give my opinion, trying them out side by side. Overall, I would have to say that I could totally appreciate and understand the reason why these beers are highly sought after and looked for. All solid beers across. Gotta give a lot of respect to all these brewers. And again, if I were you, I'd definitely give these beers a shot because they're definitely solid beers. And if you're an IPA freak, these are definitely beers to try. Nugget Nectar is a little bit different, but again, it's still a very, very solid beer. So that pretty much wraps everything up. Again, my name is Stephen Bilodeau, the beer manager over at Wines Unlimited and the coordinator of the ShakesBeer Festival. And this was a IPA kind of takeover.